does anybody have any questions related to what was talked about a fair bit last time about qualifications and the career path in that sense? My last thing is, as Yelena said, I'm now studying a master's in applied linguistics, or education applied linguistics, and I'm doing that with the Open University. I don't particularly want to promote the Open University, but it is the UK's largest university by student numbers. It's mostly part-time. It's mostly adults who want to study sometime later on in their life. Of course, it's very useful for people who are not in the UK, who are not in any particular place where the university offers what they want. It's all done online. And unlike a lot of what you might call correspondence courses, which people don't recognize with good reason sometimes, you know, you send off and you pay a fee and then you get a certificate. This is not the case. The Open University is a real university. It's been running since the 1960s. And used to be postal, but of course in the digital age, everything is now online. The resources, the library, everything you need. So I'm currently studying, there are people studying all over the world at the Open University. I don't know what the price of courses is for people in different countries. I know that because I'm based mostly in Britain, I think I get a discount because I'm considered a British student no matter where I am. But if you wanted to find out, as you can see on the screen, I hope, open.ac.uk, if anyone is interested in distance learning, but real distance learning with a recognized qualification at the end of it. There are undergraduate and postgraduate courses. And if you just type in here, the one that might be most interesting for us would be applied linguistics, which I hope is coming up there. No, it's not. There we go, and it will give you some details of the course. If the internet decides to work. If it's not, if it doesn't, it takes too long. Doesn't matter. I've shown you the Open University. So that's my background and my training. So if there are any questions, I don't know if Slava or Yelena is dealing with questions. If there aren't, we can move on.
So Mark, I don't see any questions in the chat. So
Fine.
If you want, you can ask questions just unmuting your speakers. And if not, then we can go on. So there is one question. Do they offer 1 year or 2 year course? The question from Tatiana.
Hello, Tatiana. The course that I'm studying is a 2-year course. Because it is set up to be done part-time, because it assumes that people are working and this is part-time, even relatively short courses, I think, are 2-year. But have a look. They're all modular. So I've got, my master's degree is a 3-module course, which can be spread over 2 years or 3 years. There's an option that you can do 2 of them slightly, overlapped. So you start off doing one and halfway through it, you start doing another one at the same time. And so for a while you're doing 2 modules at the same time, and then the first one finishes and the second one carries on, and then you do another one the next year. The reason that I'm studying with the Open University is not just because it's online, it's also because I have the Delta. I was given a permission not to have to study one of the modules. Yes, I got credit. So you get 60 credits per module. It's 180 credits for the whole master's, but I was given credit for having the Delta of 60 credits. So I didn't have to do the first module. So I'm just doing 2 modules, which is a relatively comfortable amount of work. And each module is taking a year.
Okay, so I think then Tatiana, your second question, you have to do with the time framework, or can you extend? So I think, did Mark answer your question? Okay, and a question from Julia. what are the requirements to enroll in for the program in the Open University?
Well, if you're interested in the postgraduate, the masters in applied linguistics, which you can either have as masters of applied linguistics or master of education bracket applied linguistics, whichever you think would sound nicer, but it's the same course. You would need an undergraduate degree, a recognizable undergraduate degree. You don't need to be a teacher. It says on it, this can just be for your pleasure or interest, though it understands that the applied linguistics masters will attract an enormous number of TEFL teachers. But it says you don't need to be teaching, that you can, it looks at education in many ways, not just in formal education settings. And some of the work that we've already done, I'm relatively new on the program, but some of the work is already looking at how children and parents talk to each other and how parents correct children in a completely non-formal way. So you might just have an interest in it. So I think really it's just the undergraduate degree and the money, I think. But again, have a look at the website. It's very easily explained. It's not the website is quite authoritative, and if there are any problems, they have people that are there, and you can just I think you can even chat rather than email.
Okay, and one more question from Yulia. Are students supposed to come at a place of study and pass some exams in Britain?
No.
Okay, and
I say that, but the course that I'm studying now, it's almost all coursework. If there is an exam at the end, it's so far in the distance that I haven't really thought about it. And the next module after that is a dissertation module. So if there is any exam requirement, a final exam requirement on any courses, of course they will not be expected to come to Britain. You may well have to find out in whichever country which university or educational establishment is trusted by the OU to supervise your exam. That's not an uncommon thing.
okay, and a question from one more participant. How many modules are to be taken?
3 in total for this applied linguistics masters. It's 3 modules. As I said, you can do 1 each year, or if you want to, I think modules 1 and 2 you can run together so that you're doing 2 in 1 year and 1 in the second year.
Okay, so are there any other questions? Anyway, you can ask questions anytime, and then at the end or at the end of the next part of the webinar, I will read them. Or you can just unmute your speaker and use your voice and ask the question yourself. Okay.
Okay then. So turning to organizations, last time Yelena talked a little bit about TESOL that she has joined, and she's going, am I right, you're going into Chicago, was it, to a conference?
Yes, last time I was talking about TESOL convention, and this year it is in Chicago in March. And I've talked about the opportunities for teachers in Kazakhstan also attend this conference and get some scholarship to attend it. Yes,
indeed. Now, TESOL has I'm not sure whether you would call them a rival or a partner organization that is based in Britain, and that's IATEFL, which hopefully you can see on your screens now, iatefl.org. The International Association of Teachers of English as a Foreign Language. Now, I would love to say I'm a member of IATEFL. I was, but I didn't renew last time because I knew I was going to be out of the country for a long time, and the fun is really going to the conference. But there are other benefits, and Yelena talked about TESOL last time, special interest groups, national organizations affiliating, sponsorship for participation at conferences, whether they're local or the main annual conference, all the same sorts of things IATEFL do as TESOL. I simply think that IATEFL is more British European and TESOL is more American, and so they will in some ways be rivals, but I think they're more, they certainly work in partnership with each other, and they do have information exchanges and things like that. So I don't think they're particularly competitors, but you might find, I mean, where Yelena is now in America, of course TESOL is your thing. I'm not sure which of them would be more appropriate for Kazakhstan, but I thought I would mention it as a professional organization that I have been a member of. And I went to the conference in Birmingham last year, and it was fantastic, and it really inspires you. You meet people, you do networking, there are job market opportunities. I was interviewed at a number of universities in China and in the Gulf. I saw one of my ex-colleagues give a presentation, a workshop, which was very useful. These are great opportunities to put some really good stuff on your CV. And I called, knowing that I was giving this webinar today, I called TEFL, who were based in south of England, and asked them to send me some information that might be useful to you, assuming that most of you are or have been in Kazakhstan. And I just want to skim over the email that I got back. I spoke to some nice man, and then I got an email from somebody, and I thought I would just share that with you a little bit. Just skimming over it. There's an annual conference, which I just talked about. There are special interest groups. So if you're interested in teacher training or young learners or creativity in the classroom or business English, there are a number, I can't remember, there's 14, 16 special interest groups that you can join at the same time. If you pay to join, you get one free special interest group, SIG, that you can join, but you can join others as well. And as it says here, if you can see my the cursor, there are scholarships, again, similar thing, and they link with teacher organizations in countries. Now, I wasn't sure whether or not the webinar participants are part of, whether you have made an organization or this is a splinter off something else. But if there is an organization, or you wanted to form one, there's certainly ways of benefiting from TEFL. And it was quite nice. They didn't just send me back a standard thing. They sent some links to videos, which may or may not be useful. And then this membership grid, which I hope I've got here, which just explains the costs of individual membership. I had to pay this individual membership here. I think that's what it cost me. Yeah, and I got one SIG, special interest group. But yes, early teacher or institutional. So this would be your language school. All kinds of things are possible, including membership through a national organization. So certainly worth investigating. As well as looking at TESOL as well. And finally, on this email, which I'm not able to scroll down on because I've got this in the way. See if I can move that. Okay, that's fine. Just moving the videos. And then at the end, the man said, it talks about the wider membership. So encouraging membership from places outside Britain and Europe. And says who to contact, and it says somewhere, if I can see it now, yes, I have checked our membership database, and as it stands, we currently have 4 individual members who are situated within Kazakhstan. So it's quite possible that somebody I'm speaking to is already a member. If you are, please say hello on the chat. I need to rejoin. That's very bad of me that I've let it lapse, because it was very useful. But certainly, there are membership, it says something like wider membership scheme enables individuals who live in countries where there are no current teaching associates, which is groups, teaching organizations, to apply for free 2-year memberships. So it's worth investigating whether individually or as a Kazakh English teachers organization, what you could get from TEFL. Okay. Any questions about TEFL? I'm sure they're very similar to TESOL, and you talked about that last time.
So, Mark, I have a question. Do they have some discount for members from low-income countries? Because in TESOL, they have a significant discount for people from Kazakhstan.
The man on the phone today said yes, but I'm not sure exactly how that falls. This is the membership grid. So certainly, if you're an early career teacher, you get the price, but it's for 2 years rather than 1. Basic may well be through, what does it say here? Through associate teaching associations. So that's cheaper if you're part of an association.
Yeah, Tatiana writes that we have to check for association membership. So maybe, Tatiana, you can contact the TEFL, and then you can apply as a membership, and maybe some teachers from Castea will be interested in joining TEFL as a member. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions about? I've got 1 or 2 things. So that's the that's the home page. Then that's the membership grid. So one of the links was cutting to Jim Scrivener, who some of you I'm sure will have heard of and read. What when I was doing CELTA was the Bible of early teaching, which is Learning Teaching, the name of the book. Which is what I based everything I learned on when I was doing my CELTA course. He's very interesting. I saw him at TEFL conference in Birmingham last year, and it was very interesting that he, in many ways, is not a fan of the CELTA course. So that was interesting, that someone whose book is promoted as being the accompanying book for CELTA, or was at the time, definitely sees some negatives in the whole teacher training thing. So he was very interesting. Other people, you would see Scott Thornbury. I ran into him and said hello. Mariam Valukri, Jeremy Harmer, all kinds of people, as I said. And also, apart from these big name speakers who sometimes give some plenary sessions, but sometimes also do workshops and seminars, there is plenty of opportunity to present yourself. I mean, I didn't. It was my first time there, and I thought, okay, I'll just go and I'll see. But one of my ex-colleagues, I said, presented something. And that's always very good for the CV. And it's good for your confidence as well, and for networking. So there's plenty of videos of things happening at TEFL on there. There's also, I haven't used this, I must admit, but there's on the TEFL thing, there are jobs pages. I don't know how busy these are. As I say, I haven't used it before, but I would certainly perhaps have a look. Current vacancies, not many. There's only 5, but still, you never know. There might be good things coming up on that. So, anything else on TEFL before we can move on?
So I don't see any questions in the chat, so I guess we can move on.
Okay. I will forward the email to you, Yelena, that I got back from TEFL.
Okay, thank you. And I will also share it with Tatiana so we can ask them about membership and other benefits.
Okie dokie. So the next thing I thought I would share with you is a online publication called Humanizing Language Teaching, which some of you may be familiar with. This is from Pilgrims. Pilgrims is a language school and possibly even publisher, I'm not sure. So Humanizing Language Teaching, hltmag.co.uk. In terms of, I'm sure at the end, possibly not at the end, but possibly after the webinar, I can send all of the links, of course, to Yelena, and she can send them on. So I wouldn't worry about writing them all down. I'm sure you're not. But this is, I think it's every 2 months, and it has interesting things in it, articles, lesson plans, stories. It's a very, as it says, humanizing language teaching. I think its focus is about encouraging creativity, which is a growing trend in the TEFL world, encouraging people not to teach like robots or assume that students are robots, but encouraging people to do things that are a little bit different. You know, maybe using poetry more, maybe using drama, maybe using art as ways of encouraging people to identify as humans first and students or teachers second. So if you look onto here, you've got current edition or previous editions. I think I've clicked here onto current edition. Again, I'd opened it up beforehand just to save the internet time. So you've got lesson outlines or contents, articles, jokes, short articles, some lesson outlines. Worth having a look at some of these. I think I must have clicked on one of them, on lesson outlines. Let's see if I just go back. Was that where I was? Oh yes, so this is about Friends, the American sitcom, comedy, a lesson on Friends. So if you wanted to, I think the next one I've clicked on is viewing it as a web page, but you can of course download these. So this is essentially a lesson plan. Tells you a bit about the man who's written it, introduction. You know, it's quite a long read, as you can see. But if you had a look through and you thought, yeah, I could use that with my students or not, well, like all lesson plans, you know, you might want them, you might not. And then to go back to, sorry, oops, that was the wrong one. Previous editions. There's a whole archive of previous editions here. And if you were to click on August 2017, you get here. And you can see that there's, I think this is August, yes, August 2017. And just having a look through that, I thought that's very useful, blah, blah, the same sort of stuff. And then something happened to catch my eye. And now I can't find it. Here we are, an old exercise from, is that Zaure? Someone in Kazakhstan. So someone is contributing to HLT from Kazakhstan. Well done. If you're here with us today, well done. If you're not, then if one person can do it. And so on the next one, I opened that up, and it's about customs and traditions. And if you have a look down there, there's a no prizes for guessing what that is. And then just some ideas. You could print off these cards. Dombra, of course. If I had to think, right, Kazakhstan, what is there? Yurt, Dombra, yeah, horse meat, maybe up in my list of things I would associate with Kazakhstan. But there are some nice activities. Or what she suggests is you print off the cards, and then each student has to pick up a card and in 2 or 3 minutes explain the significance of this. And that's something that I think students in Kazakhstan might be interested in. So anyway, that just caught my eye as one example of the sorts of things you can see. Now on the main tab down here, it says join our free mailing list. Do so. Yes, if you just click on there and go and give them your email, every 2 months you'll get an email saying the new edition of humanizing language teaching is out. Come and have a look. That's all it is. They don't send you loads of spam or anything like that. So aside from looking at things, articles or lessons that you might be able to use, clearly this is quite an open publication, and is the sort of publication that I think it's not terribly difficult to get reasonable articles accepted by? I don't think, if you were interested in whether you're an academic and you need to publish things, I don't know what sort of impact level HLT has, but particularly if you're beginning the process of thinking you might want to get stuff published, I would think that this would be quite a nice way of starting. Does anyone have any experience of HLT, or has anyone seen it before? Are you members, or are you getting the emails?
So I don't see any answers in the chat, but thank you very much for sharing this information, because this is the first time I hear about it. And also I think the opportunity for publishing some papers is very important for most of the participants here, because it's a requirement for university faculty now. Yeah,
indeed. And as I say, I have not tried to publish something in this, but if you look at the people who have published, you know, there's a whole range of things. As I say, there's lesson plans, articles, jokes, all kinds of things. And if you look at the countries where the people have where they're based, it's a wide range. You've got Iran and Bulgaria, and just looking through loads of places. It's although I think Pilgrims is based in Kent in the southeast of England, it's certainly not the content is certainly not dominated by British or American writers. Absolutely not. Okay, so shall we move on to the next?
So Mark, there is one more question from Julia. What are the requirements to teachers to be published at this website?
Without checking, which I didn't do beforehand, I would say there's none. I would be very surprised if there were any qualifications or experience or anything that you need for this. As I said, I think it's a relatively open. That's not to say they're going to accept everything that they submit, that you might submit, but I'm sure there are no criteria that you need to meet. If what you're sending in is of interest to them, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Okay, thank you. We will check it and try to send some stuff.
Good. Okie dokie. So moving on to another website that hopefully will be useful for you. These are ones we've already looked at, so let me find the next one. Okay, TEFL.com. Can you see that okay?
No, Mark, I think you should press sharing and then share screen and choose the page again.
Yes, indeed. Is that coming up okay now?
Yes, now we can see it.
So, as you can see, TEFL.com, you join TEFL.com, but if you're an individual teacher, an individual member, it's free. If you want to join as an organization, like a language school, then there's a fee. But mostly for me, this is a job finding site. There are plenty of others, of course. But my first job in Kazakhstan, in Aktau, I got through this website. So this is one that I've used on many occasions, and I am signed up to it as an individual member. And as you can see, there's different opportunities, jobs, and other things going on. I've opened up some tabs here, so let's have a look at that one. Teacher training, if you're interested in some more qualifications, I just clicked on Turkey, and here we are, International House Izmir. And they're just advertising the courses that they do. And unlike a generic website that can tell you we do Salta or we do Delta, as you can see here, you've got the dates of their next courses coming up. So this is less advertising that they do courses and more advertising specific courses that are coming up soon. And in that sense can be quite useful. Of course, you can check the Cambridge English site as well. But anyone thinking about doing a Delta course, off you go. It's not the only one in Turkey that offers these. Nothing in Kazakhstan. Where else might be useful? Let's have a look at the UK. Something in Edinburgh, something in Cambridge, and something else in Cambridge. Okay, fine. So that's if you're interested in teacher training. For me, I was more interested in the jobs from this. So I signed up, and you can sign up and do your online resume, CV. So it has all of these things which you can fill in, and very handily, when you add a new job, like a year later, if you've done a new job, you just add it and it will automatically put it in the right place in terms of dates and things. You don't have to fiddle with it too much. So you can keep that relatively up to date. And a lot of the jobs on here, they simply want you to tick the box and apply, and it will just automatically apply from your online resume on here. Some of them say apply with a CV to this email address, but most of them want you to apply through TEFL.com on your online resume. So once you've done it, it can, it obviously takes a little bit of time to fill it in, but once you've done it, it's there. It's also possible you can tick a box that says yes, if employers want to contact me, they can have a look, they can see my resume without me even applying for anything. If someone's looking for a teacher in Kazakhstan and you're registered as being in Kazakhstan, then you might well get something in your email inbox saying, hey, we see you're in Kazakhstan, we're looking for teachers. So it works for businesses looking for teachers, and of course for teachers looking for jobs that are being advertised. And then if you want to look at jobs at the moment, I thought just before when I opened it up, all I've done is put Kazakhstan. There's all kinds of options. There's continents or specific countries. I thought, well, let's see what's on in Kazakhstan at the moment, what's available. And as you can see, IH Interpress advertising for a teacher. I think this is a young learner because, well, let's click on it anyway. And then there's this one here. We're in the wrong job. It definitely is a teacher governess. I'm of the wrong sex, because that's not asking for a man, is it? That's looking for a woman. So those of you women here on the webinar, what are you doing? $6,000 a month. Get applying. We're in the wrong job. So I'm not going to click on the details of it. If you want to find out the details, you'll have to go yourself to TEFL.com. But let's have a look at this one, TEFL position in Astana. I think this is young learners because I think I've seen it advertised elsewhere. But let's just see. Immediate start. Yeah, young learners. It's not a bad salary. What do they need? Native speakers level only. Now that's quite nice, yes? Instead of the horrible native speaker only nonsense that you see on a lot of these job ads, I think that the mood in the TEFL world, particularly in IATEFL in Birmingham, there were preliminary speakers who were quite hostile to the idea that there were still adverts saying native speaker only, and that's very much going out of fashion. So native speaker level, sorry, I think is a much nicer way of saying that they're interested in your abilities and your qualifications and not which country you happen to be born in. So I think that's a very positive development. Are there any questions about TEFL.com?
So there are no questions, but there is a comment from Tatiana. But we must be careful. So thanks, Mark. Good opportunity for us. But we must be careful. Sometimes employers look for native speakers, but it's good to know native speaker level sounds quite new. Yes, and I'm surprised. So I think any of us having native speaker level can apply, and this is great.
And if you look down here, sorry, if you look down at the qualifications, university degree, okay, I'm assuming everyone's got that, CELTA, certificate or equivalent. You will see that so many times. I'm sure most people are familiar with this. Equivalent, there is, in Britain, there is the Trinity College certificate. I can't remember what the letters are in that, but that's widely seen as being equivalent. But those are the two that operate out of Britain that Cambridge would recognise, that the British Council would recognise. And I think there is definitely a preference for CELTA above the Trinity College, but I don't know whether that's based on the real value of them or just simply that people are more familiar with the Cambridge suite of exams.
Okay, and I have a question, Mark. What is DBS certificate? Okay. Provide 2 recent references and DBS certificate.
Yes, DBS is, I'm trying to remember what it's called, what it stands for, DBS. I can't remember what DBS stands for, but this is essentially, you need to be able to demonstrate to your employer through a police check that you are not barred from working with children. So this is one of those duty of care things where if the job that I'm taking soon, I hope my next job is not working with children, but it's teacher training secondary school teachers. So there is, there's a small possibility that at some stage I might meet a secondary school pupil, even though I won't be training in the schools. And for that reason, I have to do DBS. So I'm going to have to do that very soon. And it's essentially you contact your local police or the British police for me, and you say, I need this DBS thing, and I lived here on those dates, then I lived here, then I lived somewhere else. And they go away and they check that you haven't been arrested for doing something that you shouldn't have been doing, that you're not on a, essentially that you're not on a sex register, or I don't know whether it's just that or whether they also look at, I don't know, violent crime or something like that. The ins and outs, I've not had to do it. I had to do it in Ireland for one of my previous jobs, and the process was relatively simple, but that's what DBS is.
Okay, so Tatiana is asking, is it for British people only? But before, so Mark, is it for British people only?
I don't think so. I think if you wanted this job, because London Education Group sounds like a British company that would be employing you, I think that whether it's cultural or legal, that they would then have to, if they're employing somebody to work with children and something happens and that person had a criminal record, they would be in position to be sued or prosecuted even for not making adequate background checks on you. So I imagine it's because it's a British company that would be doing the employing is the reason why that they're insisting on DBS.
Well, dear colleagues, actually it is very simple, and I did this process last summer when I was taking a group of kids to London, and they asked me to provide this DBS form. So you just go to TON and ask for this certificate, and they will give you in a few days with some stamps and all necessary information. And also as a supplement to it, you can ask a reference from your present or a former employer just to write you a reference that you have been working with children of this age or that age and you don't have any problems with that. So I don't think this should be a concern, because actually our TESOL gives this document.
And that will be fine. As I say, I did it in Ireland. I was working in Ireland. They have a procedure. Brits have a procedure, but you know, they'll want something from your country. And if it's a simple procedure in Kazakhstan, then that's great.
Yes, so Tatiana is writing, I'm afraid our police wouldn't give the permission of working with children, but for criminal records they can give. So we are not to get this document, you shouldn't go to the police, just go to TESOL and provide this document that you don't have any criminal record, and then supplement it with some reference from your employer that you worked with children before. Did we answer your questions about that? Actually, it was my question, okay. So let's go on.
Okay. So then I had a feeling that this might take quite a long time to go through all of these, but I wasn't sure. I'm aware that we've only looked at a little bit of resources, as in teaching resources, and it is 5 to 4. So Yelena, would you like me to quickly go through some stuff?
So actually our webinars sometimes take longer, so I think it's a good idea to look at some stuff and then we can list them together with all the links that we will provide for the participants. Okay,
fine. So I probably will want to show you one website because it has so much stuff on it and I'm not sure you can see that. So I'll stop and I'll start again. No, I don't want to leave the meeting. Apologies.
Just press share screen.
Yeah, is that coming on now? Fine, lovely. So this is the bbc.co.uk/learning English. If you haven't used this site before, then you've been missing something because there's so much stuff on here. You could spend years going through it. So I think if we've got time to look at one site, this is the site. So I don't need to tell you what the BBC is. You're all familiar with that. It's got a new layout, which I'm less familiar with, but there are two key areas. One is courses and one is features. Some of the features are no longer current, but they have them archived. So you can still use them, but they're no longer doing new ones. Let's have a look at the courses first. Clearly I'm not sure how many of you are teaching at university, how many of you are teaching at schools, what level you're teaching, whether you're teaching in private language schools, teaching business or teaching IELTS. I don't know, but you can find a lot of what you might need on this site. So under courses, unless anyone says, oh, I want to do this level or that level, clearly you can have a look at alone at home on your own. But if we look at perhaps lower intermediate, which I might have opened here. Yeah, so lower intermediate, if we click on that. So this is for students essentially to do self-study. So this is something that I would recommend you might do the first. I mean, it doesn't have to be done as a self-study. This could be done in the classroom if you've got the right sort of technology. So here we are. We've got session 1. Nice to meet you. I don't know why that came up in a separate thing. So nice to meet you. Here it is. Asking questions. Saying hello. And then you've got a video. Watch the video, complete the activity. I won't play all of this. No prizes for guessing this is London.
So Mark, does this video have some sound?
Are you not hearing there's some music on it now?
No. Yes, now we can
Okay.
hear.
It was just a bit of a long introduction.
Okay.
So this is intermediate level. The video just gives different ways of saying hello. It's quite basic. It's, you know, it's the first lesson of an intermediate course. So we can pause the video. Yeah. You just watch some people saying hello. Then you've got a quiz. Remember who said what. Let's have a look at the activity. Who said all right? You know, it's not the most taxing, it's not the most difficult quiz in the whole world. And then on to next activity. And very normally, you would have transcripts. With all of these things, you can normally look at the transcripts. As you can see, that's hardly dialogue, it's just ways of saying hello. So very, very basic level. And then you can click onto the next one and see what the next activity is. Now, if you think that this might be of any interest to any of your students, then certainly doing the first unit of any of these in class, I think, is very worthwhile. And perhaps setting the next one or doing one or two in class, getting some of them are stories. Yes, there's characters develop. And it can be useful. It can be good for students to get into the characters, get into the story, and then perhaps set them the third or fourth one as homework, and that they can do at home. Any questions? I can see the chat thing flashing. Does anyone need?
So Mark, if there are some questions and comments. So there are some participants who are using these websites and they have podcasts to download, and we can subscribe to their YouTube channel and get short videos about teaching tips as well. So Tatiana is asking, Mark, will you pronounce LingoHawk page?
That's on the features, isn't it? Is it Lingua Hack? Lingo Hack.
Okay.
Lingo Hack. It's not a real word. It's just something the BBC have invented. Please don't go and look in a dictionary now in case it is a real word, but it's not a word I've heard before. So on the courses, it's great that some of you are using these. Has anyone used Shakespeare Speaks? I think Shakespeare Speaks is not that useful. If you're interested in literature, if you're teaching English literature, great. But in terms of day-to-day modern English, I think it's of limited use. Some of the others I haven't looked at because they're relatively new. So have a look at that yourselves. It's great that some of you are already using it. So features, I think that in some ways these are more interesting. One that I was doing recently, when I was in Astana recently, I was teaching on the Bolishak program. So I was preparing students to go and study in Britain or in the States or in some other places. And so we were preparing them for IELTS because they needed a certain IELTS level to be able to get into their preschool sessions in Britain. We were also improving their level of English in general, of course. But one of the other things that perhaps my responsibility as the only Brit on the team of teachers was doing things that would help prepare them for life and study in an English-speaking world as opposed to in Kazakhstan. And so one of the things I did with them was English at University, which again, I hope I've opened up somewhere. So if you were to click on English at University, and as I'm sure some of you have already seen this, and then episode 1, Leaving Home, the graphics are very basic. They clearly didn't want to pay actors to do this because they would have to pay repeat fees. So they've just got some what do we call this? Some graphics, some animation, and yes, it's relatively basic. It's a little bit cheesy, but the first episode, Leaving Home, if we just have a look at that just as a taster, you'll see what the graphics are like. The narrator is an ex-colleague of mine called Neil. I recognized his voice when I first saw this. It doesn't exist. Okay, so I'm hoping that that's enough of a taste that you can see the style of it. It's sort of animated, and then you've got the normal stuff: language focus, useful phrases, vocabulary that comes up, and then you have the transcript. Do some practice, and then some extensions. So here's one. Here's some real students talk about the university. Now, I haven't opened this in advance, but I'm hoping that this will come up. And this is from their the BBC's previous site. You can see it's a different style. Can you see that okay? Does that come up okay, Yelena?
Yeah. Yes, we can see it.
Fine.
So just other participants also can write in the chat if you can see.
So as you can see, this is a different format. This is the old version of the site. So this is where lots of quite good stuff is archived. So they're not adding to it anymore. And when they redesigned the website with a new look and a new layout, they didn't just delete this. It's still there. And this is a link from Mary's episode 1, and here we just have some real students.
First week at university is really exciting, and there's so much to look forward to, and so much. There's a new life ahead of you. You're looking at future plans. What am I going to be doing 5 years from now? But generally speaking, one word to sum it up is really excited about university life.
It's so exciting to have new experiences.
So again, just to give you a flavor, of course, if I were doing that with students, I would not be showing them that, because I wouldn't want them looking at the script. I'd want them to be listening first and then perhaps showing them, but I'm sure you've all thought that as well. So that's the learning English bit on going to English at university. One of the other links, let me go back. Some tips. This is another link from that same the same episode of English at University. I'm hoping that this opens out into one of the other sections of this. So this is a grammar section that it's opened up into. So it opens up sometimes these links at the bottom of the soap opera, because that's what English at University is, a soap opera about following Mary on her travel to India and from India to the UK, and then meeting people. So at the bottom of this, there are links to other parts of the Learning English website that are appropriate. So if you haven't used that, and you've got students that may well be going to study abroad at some stage, particularly if they're going on Bolishak maybe, that would be very useful. One of the other features that I would like to look at with you, which I know some of you use because I've met students who've used it. One of my best friends in Actow pretty much learnt English from 6 Minute English. Just listening to that I think it's twice a week. I'm not absolutely sure how many. But it's a, as it says, a long-running series of discussion with new vocab. And again, here you can see that when they redid the website, they just archived stuff. It's still available. So here I sometimes get students to just scroll down the first couple of bits and see which ones interest them. So why pay for bottled water? So let's say, well, that sounds interesting. That's a change that I've noted. Coming back from Kazakhstan, I no longer buy water from the shop. I drink it from the tap here in Britain. I'm not the biggest fan of Britain all the times, but you can drink the tap water. So that's one good thing. Saves lugging big bottles of water up the stairs. So as it says, 6 Minute English, I'm sure lots of you are familiar with it, but if you're not, let's just start. It is literally 6 minutes of something you can listen to. And this is great for students listening to something on the bus or in the car on the way to or from a lesson even.
From bbclearningenglish.com. Welcome to 6 Minute English, where we introduce a refreshing topic and 6 related items of vocabulary. I'm Rob. And I'm Neil. And today we're talking about water. Nothing more refreshing than an ice-cold bottle of water straight out of the vending machine. Refreshing in this context means making you feel cool again after being hot. So, does that cool you down, Neil? Yes, I feel very refreshed now, thanks. Can I ask you, though, why didn't you just get a glass of water from the kitchen tap? That water is cool and refreshing too, and it's free. Well, I like this brand bottled water better. It's enriched with salts and minerals that are very beneficial to your health. Enriched means improving the quality of something by adding to it. Enriched, honestly, Neil. It tastes better, Rob. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. For the first time in the UK.
So again, we don't need to listen to the whole of one of the 6 Minute Englishes. So you've got a question. You can do that with students in a classroom beforehand. What do you think? Listen to it. Here's the vocabulary. And as it says, this is a transcript, but it's not word for word. It's pretty much word for word, but some of it is just paraphrased. And then you've got, after the transcript, nothing. So, very useful if people are working in places where the internet is not always reliable. You can download the PDF, which will have the, well, let's see if I can do it now. I was hoping it would open. Let's see. So here we have the transcript. I'm assuming it's just the transcript. Yeah. And then also downloading the audio, really very important. You know, all teachers have had lessons that just come unstuck because something isn't working. But if you have the audio and you have a PDF, then you can do the lesson even if it's not ideal. So there are hundreds and hundreds of 6 Minute Englishes, which are, as I say, I would do a couple of them in class to get the students into the idea of it, and then give some as homework maybe, because this, as I say, is ideal for headphones, travel, something like that. any questions on 6-Minute English or any comments? I'm sure you've all used it, so if anyone wants to comment on anything about 6-Minute English.
So we have a question from Gulvira. Can you suggest any resources for assessing Lexile level? I'm not sure if I pronounce it correctly, like new seller website.
I didn't understand the question either.
So Gulvira, maybe you can unmute your speaker and explain what you mean. Can you suggest any resources for assessing Lexile level like new seller website?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, it's about the question of mine. So there is a website called New Seller, and once you get subscribed there as a student or as a teacher, so you'll see that there are different levels of texts that are suitable for readers of different levels, and there is the there are options that you can choose. For example, 900 words, 950 words, 1,000 words, and so on, and up to the maximum level. And you can also opt for the levels, for example, or grades, like 7th grade students, 10th grade students, and so on. And so I was wondering if there are other websites like this, just to select different texts for my
to
different
focus
levels.
on specific levels. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, certainly. Sorry, there are, of course. If we look into something like the now, which of these is the one I want? Words in the News or News Report? Let's have a look at News Report. Just staying with the BBC, because there are millions and millions of sites, and it will tend to say what level it is next to it. So if you look here, these all see, I'm assuming that these are all intermediate. They have rearranged the website recently, as I said at the beginning, and I'm not completely sure of of how everything is arranged now. On the drama, which is perhaps the last thing I was going to look at, because you can just explore this site for hours all by yourselves. But on the drama, there are, I'm hoping, if this loads properly. No, the page won't scroll. Now, there are dramas here, but it doesn't say immediately. Okay, intermediate and above level. So they're perhaps not useful for everybody either. Was it Words in the News?
Mark, do you remember you've shared one website, learnenglishteensbritishcouncil.org? So yes, there are all levels there, A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, even C2.
Yes, indeed. Well, we can have a look at that in a second. I'm just seeing the BBC website, although it's very good at lots of things, and these are all news reports, I'm just hoping that one of them might show how it's how they operate now with recognizable BBC World news readers, which is quite nice because people see people that they recognize. I'm just hoping if that loads, then maybe we can have a look and see whether this is going to work. Okay, So there we are, news reports. Again, it tells you the level up here, but I understand that perhaps what you're looking for is you want to click on something that says all the stuff at intermediate level, rather than randomly picking things and then seeing if they're intermediate level. I'm not sure that the BBC website does that, looking at it, other than for, of course, the courses where you can pick the things that you need from there. Now, Yelena mentioned the British Council website, which I assumed we weren't going to have time to have a look at. Yelena, remind me then of what...
Learn English Teens. I mostly using Learn English Teens .britishcouncil.org. And this is where you can get materials for all 6 levels, A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. And last year they started a new speaking section in skills.
Yeah. So as you can see, there's the Learn English, the normal one, which I can't see because the Zoom bar is on top, but I think that you can see that. Then there's the Learn English Kids. Is that Learn English Teens that I'm highlighting now?
You are highlighting, yes, it is teaching English, but then you should go to skills, I guess.
Okay, I can't see underneath it. I can just see the very top of it because the Zoom bar is on top of it on mine, but I'm imagining it's not on yours, so that's why I was asking. So that's the Learn English Kids, if you're teaching young learners, and that's the more general Learn English. And this is the other really, really good site that's got lots of really good free stuff, and you don't need to worry about it. So Learn English would be the more adult one, but Learn English Kids, is that, I know, here's teens now, I can see that, it's outside. So let's go back to teens then. So Yelena, I mean, you know, you probably use this more than I do. I haven't used Learn English Teens in a while. If you wanted to take over and show, that might make more sense.
Okay, then just stop share and I will spend about 1 minute just showing the levels. So how you can access the level. Just a second. So what I love mostly is that there are reading, writing, listening, speaking skills. And also if we go to speaking, for example, you can choose the level. But for speaking, there are only 4 levels, but there are more for reading and writing. So for example, we go to B1, press, watch the video, and the video is 3 times. So you watch the video, then watch and read, then watch and fill in the gaps. And also there are worksheets and downloads and transcript. So it is very easy to use and very great resource. So there are hundreds of, tens of videos and hundreds of texts. And also you can use reading and use this reading with some young kids, or also go to just Learn English Kids. Okay, so Mark, I give the floor to yours, and also we have some comments and questions.
Okie doke.
Shall I read you the questions? Or you want to?
Hang on, I think I can see the chat now. So, or if you want to, that might be easier.
Okay, so Anna mentions that 6 Minute English has also podcasts, which are downloadable and can be accessed free using mobile phones, which could be interesting and motivating for students. So Tatiana is asking, anything for audio books for free you can suggest?
The drama section of the BBC website that we just looked at, it is audio. So these are episodes of things like The Importance of Being Earnest, or Jamaica Inn, or A Christmas Carol. There are a number of them, and they are episodes and they are audio. So they are audiobooks in essence, broken down into episodes and made sort of learning friendly.
Okay, and another comment is breakingnewsenglish.com is a website of news for all level with reading, listening and spelling sections included. There are a lot of exercises for articles.
Excellent. I haven't used it, but great. I'm sure it's fine.
Okay,
Sounds
so
very good.
dear colleagues, please your questions, and I think we should wind up because we've taken more time than we planned. So we will send all the links and all the website Mark has mentioned today together with the recording of the webinar. And also don't forget to complete the feedback form. I'm sure that the speakers will also be interested in some feedback about the webinar. Thank you very much for taking your time and making so interesting presentations, sharing all those websites, very interesting, and I'm sure they're very useful for our teachers. So,
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so I would like to thank all of you for joining our webinar, and our next webinar will be next Wednesday because you know that holidays are coming and it is difficult to find the speaker for the end of December. So please check your email and we will send you the link to the webinar too. And the next webinar will be about introduction into assessment. So Mark, if you're interested, we will send you the link too. If you're interested, you may join or watch the recording. So
I might be on holiday,
okay.
but I'll watch it afterwards.
Okay, so there are some comments from the participants, and you can see, thank you so much, Mark. Thanks a lot for sharing this useful information. I'm inspired to use the resources you have showed. So
thank you.
Thank you so much, and hope to see you next week and next webinars. And I hope that this was very useful to all of you.